Hey guys,
Hey,
we're back. We're back with another book.
Yay.
And this week we started Lies My Doctor Told Me by Dr. Ken D. Berry. We love him.
That's right.
He is the king. And if you hear coughing or talking, it's my child. He's down here playing his VR headset, and he's got everybody in my house is sick right now. So I'm trying to avoid getting anything. Just got to eat my meat and keep going, right?
Yep.
So, hey, Nicole. What is up?
Hey, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Am I a lady?
Here. Oh, I'm sorry. We've got ladies and Bubba.
That's our group name, the Ladies and Bubba.
That's right.
I didn't know I was that woke.
No. Okay, no Politico. We're gonna cut that. No politics, no religion. Okay? No, my rules.
That's gonna be hard going through this book.
Well, it's not, because Dr. Berry avoids it very well.
Yes.
Because I pay attention. And we are not of the same political,
Right.
And some of us just don't give a crap about it. Oh, I was like, where did Bubba go? Did he get mad at me and leave?
No. Am I there still?
You're here.
You're here.
Oh, okay.
All right. So who wants to start us out this week? Oh, wait. We got something to. I was wanting to ask you, Bubba. I cut you off backstage because I wanted you to talk about it on here. So continue that conversation leading in here before we get into the book.
Well, I started doing this ASMR stuff with the guitar. And what happened was I was watching this stuff on YouTube, and I've been kind of listening to it over a few years, and because it's relaxing, right? So then I dropped the F-bomb to myself, and I said, I can do that. I woke up one.
I've already censored Bubba. That's why he's dropping the F-bomb and not actually.
Yeah. So anyway, I woke up one night and I just plugged my phone in. I didn't mic up to it or nothing. I just started playing with this reverb ambient pedal. It's called Ocean's 11, and ran a chorus through it, and I think the OD overdrive, and God, it sounded pretty good. So I recorded it and I took it to the guy where I'm learning some more guitar theory from, Patrick, and he's been a professional musician, I don't know, 30, 40 years, and done a lot of commercial work and all this stuff. And he says, I think you got something there. You got to put it on YouTube. So I just opened up another channel and threw it on. And then, I sent it out to a few people such as yourselves. And I didn't put it out to the public until, I don't know, maybe 5 days ago. And then I did another one. Yeah. And then I did another one, and we invested in a audio interface, a Zoom H6N, and which we did before, but we've been recording ocean sounds and birds, and we got to go find waterfalls and do stuff like that. So the idea is that I would use the ocean sounds as like a bass line, but then it's kind of gone a little different direction. So then I did the second one, and that sounded pretty good. And what I noticed was, I think the two of them together have been out like maybe 4 days or 4.5 days. And I'm up to not a lot of views, maybe just under 120 views, but there's over 20 hours of viewing time on it.
Oh, wow. Especially for a brand new channel.
So people are actually really listening.
Yeah, actually, the second video, out of the first, I think, 40 views, 10 were repeats.
Oh, nice.
And one person had actually listened to it for 25 minutes. No,
I
two
mean, that
times.
might have
Pardon.
been me. That might have been me.
Oh, so then,
I don't know for
you know,
sure, but I know I've listened to them more than once.
so then I started, of course, researching, and my son's been saying, "Well, you need to get on this," and he's
Mhm.
hasn't been. He's been supportive, but also kind of pessimistic, and he thought, well, maybe it's, it'll fall off or whatever. And I said, no, no, I think we kind of got something. And then we did another one a couple days ago, and we were listening to it with the headphones, and it was great. But then when we put the headphones on, it sounded like shit. Like there's all this distortion. So there was like all this work went right down the toilet, and
Hmm.
I was mad. I was ready to chuck something, and and I woke up the next morning. Well, everything you learn costs you something, right? So we just kind of had to giggle about it.
Yeah.
So last night I was messing around with the audio interface, and I figured out why that happened. And it's because the external mic was still attached to the interface. And then we've bought
Oh.
an actual, it's called a Boss, is it ME 90? It's a new board. And I haven't even taken out of the box yet, but we're going to be adding that to it. And so the one I was working on at Starbucks about 20 minutes ago, it's that much better than the second one compared to the first one. So what I think about it is I don't like anything that's not authentic. So when you're researching and diving into things, most of these ASMR videos are AI generated, and they're buying
Hmm.
clips and stuff like that. So I watched a bunch of these clips about how they edit it and how they fool the YouTube algorithm by, making sure the sound clip is between 5 to 10 minutes, and they chop it up and splice it in different ways so that it's not consistent. So they feel they're fooling it. So, and then a friend of mine who uh, got me into the YouTube thing like 9.5 months ago. His wife has an ASMR channel, which is huge. And then I Googled her. I won't mention the name because he doesn't want people to know where they live. But I Googled her name. Her net worth channel on her channel was 7.3 million. So I thought,
What?
oh,
Oh my God.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So
And I believe it
work
because
up-
I've worked on 2 of their 3 properties, so I know.
Hmm.
If anything, it's probably an understatement. So I started watching all these different channels, and how they do this stuff. But I want to stay authentic, so I do all the music, all the video, the bass lines, all that stuff. My son has helped with some of the editing. He's going to be going back playing the guitar. He's actually got a completely different style than me. So we're going to probably have him do some stuff and just see where it goes. But what I found, the amazing part is since I started doing it, this blood pressure problem I had has disappeared.
Oh
Wow.
wow.
So
See, I know it has that effect on a lot of people. It's really calming.
Yeah, like I said in the text yesterday, I was filming for about 4 hours, and I was going home, and I saw this cloud formation. I go to my son. I said, I'm going to drop you off, and I'm going to go down by my chosen road and park somewhere and get this stuff. So he bought some more lenses, and so he went home, and I started filming this, and I looked back at it, it was absolutely mind blowing what I saw, what came up on the film. So now I got to find a way to express that with the music. So not the next video, but maybe it'll be the one after or two down the road. I have to find something that's ambient in a manner which actually is quite dark.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I had lots of ideas going through my head. And I won't mention who the other YouTube person is in Carnivore, but I told this guy months ago because he had a background in doing beats and all this stuff. I said, I said, you really need to grab your beatbox out and dig into this stuff. And basically, he just, I don't know, just didn't fucking pay attention to it, pardon the language.
Wait, is this
And
some carnivore tea? Because I like tea. Nicole
well,
and I have a running joke that I
oh,
have that I need to start a carnivore tea channel because I'm always like, oh, did you see blah 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 blah? And I'll be like,
well,
I bet that they're doing that because of this. She's like, girl,
all
I
all I can say is the one of the things that's most important to me in life is I try and keep my word the best of my ability. Because when we leave here, what have we got? We've got nothing, right? We leave with nothing, we come with nothing. And when people tell me they're going to do something and they don't, because they don't think it's going to benefit them or push them forward, the true personality comes out. And that's kind of why I've backed off of certain things because I'm just not into it. It's just, I mean, no pointing fingers. We all know it's out there. People get caught up and they want to, they feel they've got a little bit of success or some ego or something, right? And they lose the importance of the authenticity of what they do. But we're going to push forward with this, and I've been spending probably, oh, I would say if I'm working hard on it, 4 to 6 hours a day just on the ambient stuff.
Oh wow.
So it's
Well, you're putting in
going
the
to be
work, so
really,
that's it's gonna have to, pan out for you because I mean the effort is there. You put in the effort, you're consistent, and things happen. That's pretty much the key to YouTube, from what I gather.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But we've got to get to this book. I'm
All
so
right.
happy about your new channel, though, Bubba, and we will all check it out. I've definitely been checking it out already, and I know you ladies have too. But now we need to move on to lies my doctor told me. So, anybody have
Yes.
any starting thoughts?
Well, you can pull up the first quote because it was from the preface, and I know we're not going over the preface, but let's see.
That's not it.
That's not it.
This is it.
That's it. Yes. So I thought that was interesting that he started the preface with this proverb because it kind of sets the tone for what he's, going to talk about. But I know we talked about the not being political, which we're not. I don't think he's political at all. I think that he just is kind of calling out issues with our healthcare system and the way that it is.
Well, and I mean, politics is that's a wide.
It's a wide. I think that there's
that's a broad spectrum there. We're all adults here.
People make things political when they're really not. I mean, I think people across the board would agree with what he's saying. And I did like the fact that in chapter 1, he really did lay out a lot of the work that goes into becoming a doctor.
Yeah.
And the pull on their time and attention when it comes to, trying to manage their lives. And I mean, I know that I'm sure like with Kim, we've worked with a lot of doctors and I have a lot of respect for doctors and I know that they work very hard and I've never met a doctor that didn't have good intentions. I know they're out there, but I've worked with
Just
some
like
amazing.
nurses and, people
True.
who work at McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think he did a really good job of explaining and kind of helping to build some empathy. And one thing that he was really focusing on is that they're just human beings.
Yeah, they're just dudes and chicks.
That's what he
And
always says,
yeah, and
your doctor is just a dude or a chick.
yeah, and that is so true. And there's human nature, which he gets into a bit, but it's just most doctors, I truly believe, and from what I've like, for example, my daughter's best friend's mother was a physician, and she was the kindest, most caring person you could ever know. She was amazing. And then likewise, both of her daughters went into medical professions, although one became a veterinarian and the other one became a medical doctor. And they are both two of the most caring people that you could ever know. And it's just, and I say that because most people, I do believe, when they go into the medical profession, they're not going in there because they're going to rack in the bucks. I mean, granted, you wouldn't want to go through all that without making some kind of money. But at the same time, that's not their main driving force. They truly want to help. And then basically, they just get molded into a system. And like Dr. Berry talks about, what they end up doing is not what they really expected to be doing, because they really didn't really understand or know. Even if they had doctors in the family or something, they really truly, didn't know of actually the doing part. And especially in more recent years, there's, they're sitting there in front of their laptop while the patient is there. There's so much that they have to do in such a short period of time. And he talked also about, like, they have student loans and they have, just all these pressures. And when you think about that, I mean, I have a lot of empathy. I feel for the doctors. Now, that does not give anybody an excuse to either mail it in or to be arrogant. But at the same time, most of the doctors that I've dealt with have been nice, good people who just didn't know.
And they're trying to make the most out of a broken system.
Yeah.
They went into it for the right reasons, primarily.
I don't know how many of them know how broken it is until they get into it. And
exactly.
And you think about it, they've invested so many years into the training, and then not knowing what to expect is common to pretty much any profession until you're actually doing it. You don't know. But but most people don't invest as many years into their profession as a doctor does. And I mean, I remember my husband, he's worked for hospitals for a long time, but he was talking about one person he worked with who went all the way through medical school. And then as soon as she finished and was ready to worked as a doctor for a while. I was like, I don't like it. I don't want to do this, and ended up doing something else that was not working with patients. But I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of doctors that feel like, well, I can't really afford to back out and change my mind after all this commitment I've made.
Yeah.
It's a huge financial commitment.
Oh gosh, yes. A couple of the takeaways that I had from the book were, well, first of all, it reminded me of what I always say pretty much anytime anybody wants to apply for a job or anything. I always say, okay, but what's your day gonna look like? Okay, you don't really know. Like, I mean, if you've not done that job, you can even go to a place and you can watch people doing their job. But if you haven't done that job, you don't know what that feels like to actually be in that day. As a nurse, I love the way my day is structured. I have a lot of autonomy when I'm a bedside nurse, especially. Charge nurse, not as much, but I mean, maybe even more actually, but in a different way, but I don't get to like structure my time. People are demanding things of me constantly. But as a bedside nurse, I control the flow. I control the level of, just we saw, right? I like to keep my patients calm. I like to come at them with a calm tone and a smile and, hopeful, and just, I don't like, and I'll see other people doing it, and not to criticize anyone else's nursing, but I'll see other people and they'll go in their patient's room and they're like, oh, and I'm like, oh my God, your patient is never going to calm down that way.
You don't want them anxious.
Yeah. So, but back to structuring my day, I get to kind of lay out how it's going to look for the most part. There are constant interruptions, but I know, I can work around that stuff. But if you haven't been in a career, you don't know. So a doctor goes to all this school, all these years of school, and they have no clue what it's really like to be a doctor. And they get in there and then they may like it, they may not, just like any other career. And then the second takeaway from the book, what was it? I'll remember it in a minute.
Well,
y'all go ahead.
I have one of the things he kind of honed in on after really setting the stage for what a doctor's life is like, is that in a lot of cases, the continuation of learning just doesn't happen. Because, I mean, yes, there's no time. And he also talked about an apathy for learning. And there's a comment he made in page 28. It says, even though your doctor's apathy towards learning new information is not your fault, it's your problem. And so he's really talking about like taking ownership of your learning about, what the options are for your own health, which is hard when you're not a medical person. But, the reality is that we're dealing with a lot of doctors who are just still doing what they learned in medical school and not kind of keeping current. And, as he also talks about, even like what's considered current, is it the guidelines that the regulatory agencies are putting out? A lot of those, as we've seen and he'll lay out, are very unscientific, and staying current doesn't mean that it's right, because of what he talked about the fact that, one thing he mentioned was about how the conclusion of a study doesn't reflect what the data in the study.
Yeah.
And that's alarming. I think any patient should be alarmed if they knew that. But
I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because you would think that the summary, the conclusion of the study is actually telling you what the data revealed. It's very unnerving.
I think it all goes back to the human factor, though. If we had computers doing all of this data, you enter the data and then it interprets it. But you have humans who, at any step along the way during the study, can sway. They have an implicit bias. Often, a lot of times, depending on who they're doing the study for, who's paying for the study. Then I like to think that there are a lot that aren't, that are just trying to do their very best to get the real results. But the problem is the human factor. That's both the beauty and the problem with this world, is that we're just human, and we have we come with all of our flaws, and we may like to think things one way, and we want to turn it out that way. So
well, he walks through, I can't remember exactly which chapter it was in, but he walks through like about the studies and how the meat of the study and then the summary of the study and then the conclusion of the study don't match. And then how that gets interpreted in, like when something is released to the media,
right,
or it goes and by the time it gets to everybody else, by the time it's disseminated, because nobody hardly reads the true study.
Yeah.
They don't look at the data. They don't say, well, now how did they arrive at this conclusion or whatever? And so instead, a doctor, if he's going to read anything about studies, he reads the conclusion. And so he's like, oh, well, yeah, saturated fat causes heart disease, for example. Right. And so that's what the conclusion of the study is. So he, doesn't have time to really, or it's difficult for him to make time I should say, to work through all of that and to be like, well, now wait a minute, this conclusion doesn't match what it says,
Right.
what the actual data has. And so then you take it a step further for the news media, and then the headline is sensational, saturated fat causes heart disease, and they just make it all sensational and clickbaity, and
their goal is viewers. So they want to sensationalize things to get the viewers, and they have a different goal. But I mean, Dr. Berry does emphasize that he feels that it is the doctor's responsibility to read the whole study and not just to read the conclusion, but that there's a lot of doctors that aren't doing that.
Yeah.
Should I tell you a doctor story?
It's okay. Sure.
I go to the doctor the other day, right? And I'm saying this because how overworked they got. So I'm a half an hour early. And what the doctor told me? If we don't hurry up with this, somebody might die on me. He was so miserable. And I'm like thinking,
that's weird.
Yeah, this is what he said to me. And he goes, got any more problems? I said, oh, just my arthritis. He goes, it's called a cane and Tylenol. He says, I gotta go.
Oh my
I said,
God.
Okay. But I think he's due to retire in 3 months or 6 months or something. I think he's
sounds like he's already checking out.
Sounds like he needs to.
Yeah. Well, maybe that, or either that, or now I know a lot of people that are. I should say that I have some friends in my circle who are in the medical profession, and or like things like firefighters, EMTs, nurses, and you can have a dark sense of humor that kind of helps you to survive some of the situations that you see. And if you let that slip in front of the wrong person, it can be interpreted in the wrong way. And it's not that they're callous or they don't care or just whatever. It's just this kind of a morbid sense of humor that I tend to think it's funny, but other people might be very sensitive to that.
Yeah. So, when we get a lot of nurses together and our spouses, it can kind of get that way because, I mean, the spouses mostly understand, but then you'll be around other people and they're just like, what? I can't believe you just said that. And we're like, oh, that sounded bad, didn't it?
Yeah.
I just think they've got so much stuff going on now with the way things have changed and mental health and stuff like that there's a lot of pressure, and we're not genetically engineered to take stuff. And if you got somebody at the end of his cycle, his give a shit tank isn't going to be very, it's going to be flowing over.
Well, and it's not just caring enough to learn more and to be current. He does talk about, he says the societies and boards do too much to prevent doctors from thinking outside the box or trailblazing new treatments or therapies. So if they learn something that's outside of the box, outside of what their regulatory body is telling them, they may put their career on the line if they want to go ahead and pursue trying this treatment on patients, because they're gonna get pushback. And doctors who try to go outside of what they're told, they're lucky if they just get their hand slapped.
And going back to the whole politics thing, he says there's often so much politics in medicine that being right can actually get you into trouble.
Yes, absolutely.
The way that Dr. Berry, I've listened to him for 6, possibly 7 years. I don't keep track of time well, but the way he says things, like, I'm just like, you can't refute that. It's just so common sense. It's so like matter of fact. It's just, that's the way it is. And you can't deny it because he gives you all the, he gives you the data to support whatever he says. And, I know that you can technically find data to support anything, but he gives you good sources, and following him and listening to him like pretty much every day for 6 years at least. It's I mean, my mind has just been changed in so many ways, and it makes me question things and I should have been questioning all along. You should never just take things for, oh, this is just the way it is, and that's the way it is,
Yeah.
and that's the way it's always been, and you should
Yeah, well,
never
we
do
shouldn't just
that. But
blindly
we do
trust.
that.
Well, yeah, because you think, especially when it comes to your doctor, that they know more than you do, and they've had this high level of training, but he really emphasizes, do not just blindly trust your doctor.
Yeah.
And in fact, if your doctor is not open to discussing alternative options, you may need to find a new doctor. At least they need to be open-minded enough to hear you out if you want to explore other alternatives.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's just like he just, well, I'm like, it's a person upside down. I'm sorry. Carnivore hippos, what is your real name? Because I can't see you.
I know. I feel like I
Anyway.
need to stand on my head to see the picture.
So, yeah. So it's just like Carnivore Hippos just said. If you think about how much time we spend researching, doctors have to have a strong sense of vocation and curiosity and time to rock their whole boat.
Yes.
And, Dr. Berry has time to do that now because that is his job. He's made going against the establishment basically his whole job. Oh, I remember my point from a while ago. So it was, this book is not just lies your doctor told you. I mean, that's a catchy title, and that's great. And that's, he said that because he's a doctor. But this is lies that basically everyone's told you,
Yep.
that they, things that they
right.
say, whoever they are, fill in the blanks. Yeah. It's been passed down and passed down. And then before you know it, we're believing things that are just medical myths. And a lot of nurses believe it. A lot of doctors, and yeah, it's a whole thing. It's hard to
Francis.
It's hard to tell. My name is Francis, but you may call me Hippo.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Hippo. When I saw your name, I was like, is that a troll? Like, are you calling carnivores fat right now? Because yeah, we were. But now we're getting to where we're not so. We're
That's
losing
true.
weight. Okay?
We're shrinking hippos. But yeah, so I mean, he did talk about the bias, the inherent bias in big food and big pharma, and that has an influence on these, the studies. He emphasized, when you're looking at studies, if you're learning how to look at studies, pay attention to where their funding is coming from, because that there is bias in there. And so, you don't always know. It's hard. It can be hard to know what sort of bias is in a study. But I would think that if you learn how to look at the data and the conclusion doesn't seem to match the data, that should at least be a red flag. That, wait a minute, maybe this isn't being interpreted properly. So, all right. So she's autistic. Awesome.
Okay. Well, that is just fine, and we welcome you. But
yes,
and I often don't get things, get jokes and stuff. So like someone could be trolling me, and it would take me a while to get it, Because
I mean, like, so naive, like,
okay. I just think everybody's my friend. I always have. All right. So yeah, where are we going now?
We've kind of covered some stuff in chapter 1 and chapter 2. He talked about just the pressure, and we did kind of bring this up, the pressure that doctors are under not to go outside the box. And he said that for the doctor, his income and his future as a doctor are perfectly safe if he repeats the foolishness where he's talking about things like eating low fat daily for the rest of his career. So if he keeps repeating the myths, the things that we now know are not true, he's gonna be safe. And I believe that he kind of means free from liability. You know, like you're kind of covered. They're kind of covered if they stick with what their, governing body tells them.
Well, that's like recommending statins for high LDL. I mean, they have to do that. So my doctor,
it's part of the guidelines.
Yeah,
you have to get with the guidelines.
Every year he offers me statins, and I politely decline, and then nothing else is said until the next physical. And then,
and they have to
do that.
Even though they know you've declined in the past and you really don't want to do it, they have to still say it. And then they have to document that you've declined, because that covers them.
Yeah. And that's all they want. They just want, I feel like some of them, they may not believe so much in statins themselves, but they're just like, okay, we got to check this box. We saw if they have had any falls in the last month. Now we saw if they have done this. We've checked that box. Like, I know those boxes because I have to check them.
Yeah, absolutely. And if your LDL is over a certain point, then that automatically means that they got to offer you a statin. And then if you decline, they got to say you declined. And that way they're covered. And so.
And I totally understand it. And so I don't mind at all. I mean, my doctor has never actually complained about things to me per se. But based on just little things that he said, I mean, he's frustrated that he has to be sitting in front of the laptop while he's talking to me, for example. He's multitasking. He's trying to pay attention to what I'm saying. And then
you have to record it or it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So they're sitting there
and so and there's so much. I mean, they have requirements that they have to collect. And I mean, like I said, I've been a patient of his ever since he started practicing. A friend of mine had gone to him, and actually a relative too, had gone to him and raved about him, and he's awesome. So I've been going to him for over 25 years, and I can tell, I mean, just, as the things have changed, his demeanor has changed. He's always nice to me and everything, but he's not that bright-eyed, bushy-tailed guy he was.
It's
and I guess none of
sucking the life out of him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel bad for him. I just do.
Myself, if I were going to be a doctor, I would want to be like an anesthesiologist probably, or a radiologist, or something that's just maybe an ER doc, something that you're like actively helping people, and you don't have to rely on all these medications that you're sending them home on and hoping they take, and not knowing really if that's going to work for them. And, it's just, I don't know. To me, there seems like there's just a lot of liability and vagueness and all that,
Well, there is. And they can if they end up getting sued for malpractice, it can be really career ending for them.
Oh yeah, devastating.
So, I mean, I get the fact that there's definitely it's really tempting to just bury your head in the sand and say, look, I've got this governing body. They're telling me what to do. I'm just going to stay down in this lane and not deviate, because I've got a family to feed.
Yeah. Because that's how they make their money, to feed their family. I mean, just like, me, I can say my opinion on things, but if I get on here and start saying things about the organization I work for, as far as they did this or they did that, and it's not from the perspective of a patient, it's from the perspective of oh yeah, I'm at work, and that's your, livelihood.
Right. You can't do that.
And you have to pay those student loans off too when you're,
I wonder how many doctors are know that some of the things that they're telling patients aren't really helping them, but yet they don't really have a lot of choice. Or how many of them are awake to that? Yeah,
it's hard to say.
I think
a lot of times like we always thought that people just don't listen, oh, they're not going to do it. You're going to tell them this diet. They're not going to follow it. Like you don't expect anybody to actually follow the advice that you're giving them on their discharge paperwork, and I think doctors are probably the same.
Yeah. I can tell you that, like recently, my brother had an experience with his doctor. My brother he went low carb and he's actually just inching lower and lower carb. He's probably pretty close to keto now. But he went to his doctor and the doctor had mentioned something about he had lost some weight, which my brother is tall and skinny like me. He doesn't really need to lose any weight either. And plus he works a physical job.
Yeah.
And but my brother says, he says, yeah, I've been low carb. And he mentioned carnivore. And the doctor was like, I've heard really good things about carnivore. And,
Wow.
and yes. And then my brother says, oh yeah. And he says, and then the doctor says, yeah, and there's an even stricter version of it called lion. And when my brother told me about that,
he's one of us. He's one of us.
Yes, he is. He is one.
Nobody knows about lion that's not in this
didn't-
community. I'm sorry.
Yes, exactly. And he didn't pitch a big fit or say, no, that's dangerous or anything.
Well, here's the
He's
thing
probably
with
doing
the
it
doctor.
himself.
If the patient brings it up, then I'm sure it's fine for them to talk about it.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure they're not going to say, oh, go do a carnivore diet or go do a lion diet, because that's not part of their guideline. But it's totally different if the patient brings it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you do have doctors, though, that just, oh, no, that's dangerous. You need to be eating a plant-based diet. You have a lot of them that would do that. So I was just like, I told my brother, I said, if my doctor retires, I'm going to start going to your doctor. I mean, I would have to drive a little further, but that's okay. I mean,
that's okay. I'd drive for somebody like that.
Yeah.
I see my doctor. My doctor doesn't even live in the same state as me. I just see him remotely.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I know he did talk about the doctors having their toolkits. You talked about like the different approaches to an obese diabetic patient, like to bring a point, like the family doctor, family medicine doctor would, talk to him about their diet and give them some pills. A surgeon would maybe want to do a gastric bypass surgery on him because that's in their toolkit surgery. Whereas an endocrinologist might have a different approach because they're kind of focused in on what they know and what they believe in. And so you might get 3 different treatment plans from 3 different types of doctors for the exact same patient. And one of the thoughts I had as I was reading through this is that, and this has just been my experience, and you guys, if you've had different, let me know, but I've always found that the doctor's toolkit is usually focused on symptom management.
Yeah, that's true.
And,
oh yeah. I mean, that's what they're trying to do basically.
Yeah. And
they're
it doesn't
not really trying to prevent.
Get the right prevention or get to the actual root cause of what's going on. That would require a lot of research because the information that they get educated on really doesn't give them those answers.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sick care system. We're trying to put Band-Aids on things,
Right.
We're trying to hold back. We're trying to build dams to hold back the water. We're not trying to, stop the water from coming. I don't know. But
it's
I just got into an analogy that I couldn't work out.
Yeah. But you definitely don't want to have a doctor that's apathetic towards learning and is not open towards,
or talks down to you or doesn't listen to you. Those are my biggies. Like if you're listening to me and I can tell you're actively listening, then you get a lot of points for that alone.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And also you can't expect your doctor to solve the world's problems. Like
no,
I solve my problems for the most part,
Yeah. And he emphasized it's a partnership between you and your doctor. So, which is why you need to make sure you've got the right doctor who's willing to work with you and isn't just going to, shoot down your ideas and things that you want to pursue as far as treatment, because it's your body.
Yeah.
So
let me address what Hippo said so I can take this off the screen. So she said, I'm so sorry. It's the upside down picture that's getting me. Doctors have to deal with the majority of patients who want to eat carbs and junk and have a pill.
And
And
that's
that
true.
is so true. It's like we were saying, last time, or actually, I think it was on my interview with you, Lynn, when we were talking about how, we feel so obligated to tell people, you can like literally, practically cure yourself of all of these ailments you have if you'll just eat a proper human diet.
Right.
But even if you did, they're not necessarily interested in that. Like,
Yeah.
everybody has their own objective about their self, they don't necessarily care,
And
some
maybe they're
people,
not
if they knew their
desperate yet.
life would be, yeah, exactly. Some people, even if they knew their life would be shortened, they would still choose to eat the beloved food over that. And that's
Well,
their choice.
how many times have we, as nurses, seen patients who are back for their second or third amputation,
Yeah.
that they're diabetic, and you'd think that first, toe or two that they get removed would be a wake-up call.
But
But
they get told the wrong thing to do too. Like the diet,
then,
the
but
Diabetes
then
Association
often,
diet and everything. I mean, they get
but
now
often, even if they
eventually.
tell the right thing, they'll still won't do
they
it.
still
Yeah,
won't do
yeah.
it.
But I'm just saying, typically if they were told to do something, they wouldn't do it. But if whatever they're being told would, chances are, not be the right thing.
And we have
I
to
didn't-
remember this is an addiction too. Addiction's
Yeah.
not rational.
No,
like
it isn't.
somebody doesn't just say, well, I think I'll go do some heroin. That sounds good. Yeah, let's get addicted to heroin. They may try it a couple times, and then at a party, or who knows how people get on heroin. I don't do heroin. I'm just saying, like, sugar is literally, that addictive.
Right.
And it's in everything.
But we treat it so lightly.
Mhm.
We act like it's just nothing.
Yeah.
It's not even
It's
harmful.
powerful. And if it's, and some people will, one amputation is enough to wake them up and say, okay, I've got to start researching, what am I doing wrong here? But there's other people, they just can't overcome it, or they don't necessarily know what to do or where to look for answers. So that's why I think it's really important that, we've got these YouTube channels that we're just trying to get the word out there that there's an alternative.
And we're trying to fix ourselves,
Right.
We're trying to be active participants in our healthcare.
Right. Exactly.
And not just turn ourselves over to somebody blindly.
Yeah. Well, I was really interested in the last part of chapter 2, where he was talking about the medical lies and how they develop, and how he talked about what's called the echo of the lie. So
Yeah.
yes, which I thought was pretty interesting. I know I see that all the time, where you have an expert that comes out and tells you something, and that's supposedly a fact. I mean, maybe it's like he talked about eggs, like that eggs are bad, or that fat is bad, or whatever. And the expert comes out and gives you this, and then people start sharing that information, and doctors start sharing it, and patients share it with each other. And he mentioned your hairdresser is telling you that to do about your diverticulitis, and and he said that the problem is that when they realize later that they were wrong, it's very hush. Nobody comes back and says, I was wrong.
Right.
And one thing I really thought was interesting is that the comment he says is they don't want to admit publicly that they were wrong, and no one makes them, so they don't. So this is where, and I guess, not getting political, because it's not a one side or another thing, but does it need to become political that they're required to share?
Just disregard the no politics comment. I'm talking like actual politics, like Democrat, Republican, like the big issues, like there's politics in this book.
Yeah,
but
this really is not political.
Like, no, it's not. It shouldn't.
Yeah,
be
but
all.
Here's the thing: if when people, it's hard for people to admit they're wrong. Actually, for me, it's gotten easier as I've gotten older in some ways, to just say, I was wrong. I'm just going to take my lumps. But if you have a long esteemed career in this particular theory or proposal or just whatever, it was your livelihood, and then you had to say that you were wrong. And just like all these associations who've been recommending these doo-doo diets now for 40 years, government agencies recommending these doo-doo diets, and for them to come out and, people already pretty much don't believe a lot of what the government says, right, no matter which party's in charge.
Yeah.
But most people don't believe much of what the government says to begin with. And then you take the government and all these other organizations, I don't, it would be very difficult for them to just, say, yeah, we were wrong. It is sugar. It is carbs. No, you don't need to be eating all those grains, and think, and then there again, all the people who have died because of that advice.
Yeah.
So it's a challenging thing, and human nature is to avoid pain. And so, and another thing, you have to admit that you're wrong. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of factors there that come into play. So I guess that most of them wouldn't be telling anybody or reversing that. And it's kind of like, you can liken it to other things too. Like, for example, everybody knows when the stock market goes down, right? The news reports it, everything's sensationalized. Oh my God, we're going to all be, trading bottles of water for blue jeans. This is what, happens in the news. But then when the stock market goes up, you don't really hear that much about it. They might report it, but it's not nearly as much attention getting. And so I think it's the same. Like, I think Dr. Berry has mentioned before that I believe it's the ADA, American Diabetes Association, has actually said low carb diets are okay.
Yeah, they have.
It's just buried on page 927.
Right. It's
they don't really
the attention of people.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I know real scientists are fine with admitting that they were wrong.
This is true.
Yeah, because that's what science is.
That's what science is. And whenever there's a study that they do that's open for debate, and a real scientist is fine when they're proven wrong because they don't have a personal interest in the outcome. Mm-hmm. And I know one thing he wrote in end of page 45, he said, if the experts were searching for truth rather than recognition, they would have willingly advertised a change in opinion. And I just think that it's a societal problem. First of all, we're way too litigious. I think that there's underlying fear of either getting sued or getting criminally prosecuted for killing so many people with their horrible conclusions. But we need to kind of, again, go back to the fact that they're human and people do get things wrong. But the longer they wait to step up and correct the information, the worse I feel like they're implicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it comes down to ego.
Right.
A lot of it is ego. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Even the people doing the studies, they may have an ego about, expecting a certain result and then not getting it and just kind of twisting things a little bit.
Or funding.
And there are liars everywhere, like people lie for who knows what reason.
Well, and then you start sharing information because someone else that you think was right told you that information. And that's how it gets perpetuated. And he said, mindless repetition of a lie makes people believe it, which is so true.
Yeah.
So true. So it just, the word gets spread.
Whereabouts are we in the book now, you think?
Well, we went through we're supposed to read through chapter 3. We just are wrapped up basically chapter 2. And so chapter 3 is on fat, which is kind of a lot of what we talked about with the obesity code.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff that's in this chapter, like the studies, for example, the same studies were mentioned.
Right, exactly. The Ansel Keys 7 countries study, which, again, it shows, it's just another example of how he did. What did it say he did? He studied 22 countries, but he only included 7.
I know. So he didn't even include the majority of, like, it's not like he took out 1 or 2 that messed him up. He took out like over half.
He just said, let's see, which ones do I like out of this bunch?
Yeah,
well,
it's the same curiosity about why Hong Kong is not included in the blue zones.
Yeah, well, it says that he didn't include those other countries because the data showed that eating fat either didn't have any effect on the rate of heart disease, and it actually protected the eater from heart disease. So talk about a biased study.
Yeah.
But he did that study. He started collecting data in 1956 and he published it 22 years later. So think about he invested 22 years of
his life's work. Like my career's been 23 years so far.
And the outcome showed he was wrong. So imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see what it says right there?
And
gentlemen.
Gentlemen.
It's always, hey, ladies. I was thinking I was going to have to start taking estrogen shots. It said so.
You might need to. Start dressing.
Have you never been misgendered before?
I don't know. Maybe. It's kind of.
He could borrow Dave's blue wig. What he uses for what is it? Blue Shine? Isn't that the character that he does? The vegan character is Mrs. Blue Shine or something like that.
Are you talking about Dr. Baker?
No, this is Dave.
Dr. Baker is hilarious though.
Oh, I did see that.
That's so
he dresses up all the time in crazy costumes.
Yeah.
So, but so he was talking about fat and the fact that dietary fat does not equal adipose, because he said just because we call it fat on our bodies the same as the fat that we eat, it's not. Right. But he said that because the fat in foods and the adipose tissue on our bodies are called the same word, fat, most people and most doctors childishly assume they are the same. That was kind of an interesting, like to say it childishly assume when it comes to doctors, but they do. I mean, for how long did we hear that, eating too much fat will make you fat, or eating too much fat will give you fatty liver disease?
Yeah. So let's see here. Oh, so on social media, it can be really good or really not great. I've been getting a lot of channels recommended to me, recently. And a lot of them have been just perpetuating this thing about fat. They're like, good proteins to eat. Chicken, low fat, skinless, chicken. Yeah. Lean proteins, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's just so cringy that you still think that. I mean, I'm embarrassed for you, really. But that would be mean. So I just keep scrolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just that echo of the lie, right? It's like, even though we know now that that's not true, it's still being passed along as truth. But he does really kind of calls out big pharma, and their role in, they smell a few $1 billion to be made,
Yeah, just a few billion.
Yeah. It's like, well, hey, if the study results, if we can, interpret them in such a way that it's going to sell a new pill, then all right. And apparently most of these studies are funded by government or pharma. So,
And here's the thing, they also use like
Hi, Jonna.
relative risk instead of absolute risk. So they can
Yeah.
manipulate the
Right.
numbers.
Oh yeah, because it sounds so much better when you say
Mhm.
500% more.
right.
Yeah.
So let's, I don't
Instead
know,
of-
for people who don't know the difference. So hopefully I'll explain this. Like say, for example, you've got two groups of 100 people and you have an outcome in one group of one person has this particular reaction or whatever, say to a medication. And in the other group, two people have the reaction, right? So if you look at the group as a whole, like total, it's 1% versus 2%, which is not really significant, right? But if you look at relative, one person versus two people is 100% extra. It's double
Mhm.
the reactivity in group B versus group A.
Mhm.
And so that's how they use these statistics to make
How
it
Lipitor did it.
yeah, to make it seem a lot worse. Like, wow, then okay, this pill is going to be so much better, than not taking it. When in reality, if you look at the totals, it's insignificant, statistically insignificant. So that happens all the time.
Yeah.
So
Let's see here.
okay. And he mentioned 40% of children are obese, which is sad.
Yeah.
I think it's higher than that.
Is it higher? Yeah, this was
Well,
written in
wait.
2019. Or
Yeah, I mean, you just look. I mean, it's funny. I'll sit in Starbucks and I'll do editing or have a coffee, and I just watch, and the amount of younger people that are obese is just, it's pretty sad, right?
yeah. Yeah. And it didn't used to be that way.
No, but
Yeah.
I got a question for you three.
What?
I got to get going soon. I got to go pick up my son. So, how much longer are we going to be on here for?
Well, I think we're pretty much wrapping it up.
Yeah, we'll be maybe 15 minutes or so. I don't know if you guys can stay that long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Bubba, if you need to leave, you can just feel free to go. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I got to
No,
get
we're gonna
going.
hold
But
you
anyways,
What'd
well,
you
no,
say?
it's a highlight of my week when I can hop on here and see the three of you, because I think you three are probably the nicest people in the carnivore community, to be honest.
Aw, Bubba, you know the way to a girl's heart.
That's right.
Mhm.
Sweet
Yeah.
talk. We'll work all the time.
Flattery will
And
get you everywhere.
I mean, there's lots of nice people, but I'm always a little bit of a pessimist and a critical thinker, and I think that's because of my background. But I believe that we should say good things, and if we don't have anything really good to say, we should just keep our mouth shut, right?
Well,
So-
I think human nature, we tend to start heading, our brain wants to go into the negative, and we have to kind of reel it back. And
Well, and it can be hard to say something that's factual and make sure that you keep it kind of unbiased and not get too overly critical. Because I mean, we could just as easily make these same mistakes and probably have in the past
oh yeah.
Mhm.
many times.
But anyways, I'm gonna be signing off, and that next ASMR thing is gonna be coming out probably tomorrow. And I'm going to be very interested to hear what you guys got to say. So don't forget to subscribe.
I
Sounds
did.
good.
I've already
Yeah.
subscribed.
Kimberly was the first one.
All right. So I'm going to go
Yeah.
subscribe to it right now while I'm thinking of it. I forgot. I listened and I totally forgot to actually hit
Yeah.
subscribe.
Hey, tell us your plug your channel, your new channel, and we'll get everybody to go over and check it out.
It's Ocean ASMR Blues. And it's all a work in progress. I mean, when I started doing that, I had really no idea about even though I've been playing guitar for a while, that anything about audio interfaces or anything like that, and
Yeah.
digital workstations, and it's
All right.
kind of interesting. And
I just subscribed, Bubba.
okay, thanks. And it's actually we've got a drone too, so pretty soon there's going to be drone footage popping up on there and all sorts of stuff.
Nice.
So it'll be interesting.
Well, it's great
Right?
meditation music. I love it.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You know what? It's only going to get better as it goes.
Well, give me more. Give me more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll let you guys go and you have a great
Okay.
day, okay?
Bye,
Okay,
Bubba.
love you all.
Hey, Bubba.
See you,
Yeah,
Bubba.
bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
And Hippo wants to know if it's for ADHD.
I think it's just for general relaxation.
Relaxation. Mhm.
Some people just like to hear those really soothing sounds, and just different ASMR, different sounds make you feel a certain way. Unfortunately, I've discovered, after thinking, hey, maybe I can make an ASMR channel, I discovered that ASMR actually makes my stomach hurt. It's really weird, but not Bubba's, because it's music. But like, how
What
when
does
people are doing like
ASMR stand for?
the mouth, is it audio sensory something? I can't remember.
I'll look it
But
up.
the ones that people do with their mouth sounds and stuff, oh my gosh, I had it's autonomous sensory meridian response. It's a tingling sensation that usually begins on the scalp and moves down the back of the neck and upper spine. But it doesn't do that to me. Those mouth sounds that people do, it just it instantly makes me feel like I have bricks in my stomach, like my actual stomach. It's very strange.
I don't even
And it
think
makes me feel nauseated.
I don't even think I've heard of the people doing the mouth sounds.
Oh, I can't even think about it. It hurts me.
Interesting. I'd be
Yeah, I
curious.
don't think
to
I've
see-
ever listened to any of that stuff. I mean, like I've listened to like binaural beats and just and they infuse some elements like what's in Bubba's music in with it to where it just, I don't know, it like envelops you and just, helps you to meditate and relax you. But I don't know what the mouth stuff is. I haven't heard.
I found some videos. I'm curious, since it affects you that way. I'm curious to know if it would activate my mast cells and trigger some mast cell symptoms for me. Because I know that certain vibrations will trigger my mast cells to degranulate, and I will get dizzy and start having mast cell disease symptoms.
Sorry, I got distracted for a minute, guys.
And frequencies and stuff will trigger my mast cell disease too. So I'd be curious to know whether or not that would do.
Oh wow,
mouth sounds would do
wild.
it. Yeah, it's really weird. It's like and music, have to be really careful because certain music vibrations will trigger it for me, and I have to get away. Yeah. So
that is so wild.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Mast cells are weird. Like
mast cells are weird.
Well, people who have mast cell dysfunction, it's like some of the weirdest things can trigger reactions. I mean, I get triggered by UV rays from the sun, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But
and that was one reason why I thought, you had asked me if I had mast cell problems, and I was like, I don't think so, because there were so many of the symptoms that just didn't match mine at all. But the main one that matched it was that histamine. Well, antihistamines help my symptoms when I'm having really bad symptoms, but diflucan also helps them.
Yeah,
I just went through a little bout with it for the last few days, and I don't know what that was about, but I had to take a diflucan yesterday, and then today I'm like, I'm perfect.
And are you
It's
still
so weird.
Are you still off of your crystal light?
Yes, I did do one. I had one crystal light left in my purse. So yesterday when I was at work, I was like, I want to test my theory. I want to see if this actually raises my blood sugar. So I tested it, and guess what? It did not.
It
did not raise it, not even a little bit. I was just like, a rock that whole time. And I drank it on an empty stomach and everything. But let me tell you what I've discovered since I got this continuous glucose monitor. Oh my gosh, y'all. My coffee, my morning coffee, something I'm putting in it, which I make it real frou-frou, but I'll use all kinds of different, like this sugar-free sweetener and this, sugar-free like syrup and whipped cream and all this stuff. Something in that coffee. So I'm gonna have to narrow it down because
probably the sweeteners.
Yeah, I mean, probably, but I don't think every one of the sweeteners does that to me, but I think it's Splenda. And then there was also, there's twice I've done it with the coffee. It raised it both times. But the first time, it made me read the back of that Chalk Zero vanilla that they gave us for free at Keto Palooza. And that stupid thing has 9 grams of carbs per like 2 tablespoons or something. I'm like, they gave us this at Keto Palooza?
Okay, so this goes directly to his point. Don't just blindly trust, right?
Oh, I just blindly did. I mean, it makes you realize how, like, you'll just think something's okay, and you'll literally never look at it. You have got to read those labels on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's probably the Splenda.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think it was the Splenda because I woke up this morning and I've been drinking iced tea just plain with nothing in it. And today I thought, I'm going to put a couple Splenda packets in it and do a little test. And it raised my sugar up to about 120, I think it was like 127, and I had nothing to eat. So it's very strange.
Well, there you go. So, all right. Well, so he gives homework. I'm not reading 3 books between now and the next time.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely write those books down. Let's tell people what books they were. Are you there on the page?
Yeah, I'm on that page. So he recommended for homework, he recommended 3 additional books. So one of them is called Eat the Yolks, meaning as in egg yolks.
Yeah.
By Liz Wolfe with an E. And then he said that book explains in plain words the complicated story of how fat and cholesterol became dirty words in modern medicine. The second book is, we've talked about this one already, The Big Fat Surprise: Why Butter, Meat, and Cheese Belong in a Healthy Diet by Nina. How do you pronounce her name?
Teicholz.
Teicholz.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it's this one, it looks like he said it's full of studies, citations, common sense that destroy the myths that red meat, fat, and cholesterol are bad for humans in any way. And then I know she's a journalist, correct? She's, I think, a really good journalist. And then the third book is called Eat Fat, Get Thin: Why the Fat We Eat is the Key to Sustained Weight Loss and Vibrant Health by Dr. Mark Hyman. And he says, one of the few doctors in the know. Dr. Hyman explains all the ways that eating fat is good for you. So if you want to dig in more and learn more about why fat is good and why you should eat it, there's books he recommends. Did you go through those slides with those quotes? Just because we didn't really pull them up, but at least so we can share.
Let's see here.
This was at the beginning of chapter 1, which I thought was that Leo Tolstoy from War and Peace. Though the doctors treated him, let his blood, and gave him medications to drink, he nonetheless recovered. I thought that was funny. And you can lead a doctor to knowledge, but you can't make him think.
Dr. Berry can do this because he's a doctor.
That's right.
Honestly, as a nurse, I've always been against doctor bashing. Like, it aggravates me so bad when like other nurses will be like, nurses, what keeps your doctor from killing you and all this stuff. I'm like, these people deserve a certain amount of respect. All the school that they've gone through, and it's just, like I just don't like the doctor bashing, but I mean, Dr. Barry's a doctor. He can do it.
Yeah. Well, we do work as a team.
And I mean, I'm not saying I don't give him a hard time. Like if like I'm going to tell it like it is, you know, if my doctor told me something that was just crazy, I'm going to tell you guys about it, you know, and I'm sorry for her. I'm not mentioning her name, but
yeah, I think I've worked with one really bad doctor in my nursing career. And this doctor actually ended up getting dismissed from their hospital privileges. But other than that, I mean, okay, and I've worked for some egotistical surgeons, but or worked with egotistical surgeons, but you know, you have to go to the bat for the patient, you know, as a nurse. And so you got to kind of not worry about any of those doctors. Some of the doctors that do have egos, you still have to get past the ego and still work with them. But most of the doctors I work for have been really great, humble.
Yeah. I mean, I don't work for them, but we have a lot of
with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of really good surgeons, especially, you know, I work in a post-operative, a recovery room, and, you know, they're really good. And honestly, like my favorite doctors, hands down, anesthesiologists. They are just the best. I love them. You know, they're just a different breed. And then ER doctors. I've worked a lot in a couple of different ERs, and they're just a different breed. They just think differently. The way Dr. Barry thinks is like typical, you know, ER doctor. They're just very like, they see things for what they are, and they're common sense about things. And they know that, you know, shit happens, just to be honest.
I really enjoyed working when I went from working in the hospital to working outpatient. I really enjoyed working with the gastroenterologists.
Oh, really?
You just can't.
I've not known a lot of those.
I just found them to be the most down-to-earth doctors that I've worked with. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you talk about poop all day and you're doing colonoscopies and you know, you just have to be really down to earth.
Yeah. You know? I mean, I've definitely had a lot of really good doctors over the years too. Like my, the doctor that brought my 4 sons into the world, and then his brother, both of them, they're like twins. They're not twins. They're just brothers. But one of them delivered all 4 of my babies, and one of them, provided pediatric care for all 4 of my babies, you know, up till now, even, you know, they're growing out of pediatrics, and those guys, they're just, you know, they're very common sense, old school, you know, just great guys. And the main thing with anybody in any profession is to be humble, you know, to a certain degree. Like, you know what you know, but you don't have to make people feel stupid if they say something that's not quite right in your eyes. Mm-hmm. And you can just be open and listen, you know.
Yeah. And
that's really what I expect. I don't expect them to know everything.
Right.
It's not possible.
Right. Well, here's another thing, and I've said this before, but it's sometimes we as patients aren't exactly approaching things in a diplomatic way. And I understand people getting frustrated. I've been frustrated before, and we all have. At the same time, it's like I have remembered times when, you know, I've gotten an education for my job and I'm very experienced at my job. And if you have somebody that really doesn't have a clue coming in, even if they have read up on something, a lot of times they would know just enough to be dangerous, and they would tell you what you should have done or what you should be doing. And it's very frustrating, and it brings your defenses up. But if you approach someone with kindness, compassion, and say that, you know, I want this to be a partnership, and this is some things that I have found, or just and ease into it, and don't just say, well, I'm going on a carnivore diet, and, you know, I don't care what you know, or just whatever. And there are people, I have heard people in restaurants too requesting, gluten-free. Well, I can't have gluten-free. And
Oh God, the gluten-free are the worst, and I'm one of them.
And they are, and the poor servers, so I mean, and I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means. I know I'm not, but at the same time, I really, really try to be compassionate to the people that I'm dealing with and try to think, how would they feel if they, how would I feel if they approached me in that way? And I really do try to do that. And I think that's why, look, vegetarians, I mean, most restaurants just gave up and said, we're just going to automatically have a vegetarian menu since they're so rude.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, I kind of joke about that, but I mean, like years ago, before it was a big thing, we had a family friend who was vegetarian, and honey, she let you know. And everywhere we went, it was like, oh God, she's going to do it again, and she would just be like ugly to, you know what I mean? And it's just,
I try so
just
hard not to be that person,
Me either. And I also tip very well with, to the wait staff. I'm very kind when I ask them, and I know the wait staff can't control whether or not something can be done a certain way, but if they asked on my behalf and did something, then I always, I tip them very well and I thank them. And I just think that, but the whole point is just treat people with dignity and respect. And now if a doctor is just rude to you and everything, then, and there's no hope for him, then, leave and go
some
somewhere
patients
else.
can be difficult. I've talked to patients who, they call and they ask to speak with the nurse, and then they just go off, and they're like talking your ear off about their entire health history, and then blasting. I've seen all these doctors, and none of them help me, and I have had to tell the patients, you're sabotaging your own health care, because if you go into your medical appointments the way you're entering into this conversation with me and basically not letting anybody get a word in edgewise, you're sabotaging this relationship with your doctors, because these patients go in there and they have a 15-20 minute appointment and they talk the whole time.
Yeah.
And they tell the doctor exactly how it's going to be and how it is and everything. And there are patients that are like that. And it's like, no wonder these doctors are like, what am I supposed to do with this person?
Yeah.
And so it's the doctors, they deal with a variety of personalities, and some of the patients out there can be a real challenge. And,
they can.
Give your doctor a chance to actually have a moment to think through what you're telling them.
What's funny though is there's kind of there's more than two types of people, but there's specifically two types of people that come to the hospital, and one of them is the people that just literally want to turn their whole body over to you. They're not doing anything. They're just going to lay there, and then if you say, Miss so-and-so, can you grab this pill cup and, put the pills in your mouth, and I'll hold your water for you while you take your pills. They'll just be like, oh, I can't. You're going to have to do it for me, And then you have the opposite kind that like, they come in and they're not going to relinquish any control to you whatsoever. And it's like, can we just get a happy medium?
In the middle? My pet peeve, as this is more so when I was working in the hospitals, doing bedside nursing, my pet peeve was helplessness, and what you just described. That, I'm so helpless. I can't do anything. It's like that drove me nuts.
Me too.
Those are the same people that are on their call light nonstop.
And then also the kind that it's like they want to get, well, I don't know if it's the same group of people, but there are some that feel like they've lost control of their health. And so they want control of something. So they try to control you.
Right.
So when you walk in their room, they'll say, there's a big mess over there and I just need that cleaned up. And you'll be like, okay, I'll be happy to clean that up for you. You clean it up. And then they'll ring in again and they'll say, oh, I need you to move that newspaper over from there to right over here. And a lot of these are long-term care people that I've dealt with that have been, it's like it has to take a toll on their mind after a while. And they just get this, like, they just have to have things a certain way. And they'll say, well, now I can't do that. And that, that's just not going to work for me. And it's like every little thing that you say, that you suggest to them, there's just resistance, and they just want to control you, and they want you to know that they're in charge when you're in that room. And I mean, I get it. It has to be super difficult to be in the hospital for months on end.
Oh, and you lose all
but it's very frustrating for the nurse.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had to tell one lady, this is a long time ago, but I had to tell one lady because she was so demanding and so like on her call, like constantly. And where is this person? Where is that person? I had to tell, I finally got fed up, and I usually don't talk to people like this, but I said, you know what? Everybody that's on your care team they are not lined up outside the door waiting their turn.
Yeah.
They have other patients. There are hundreds of patients in this hospital. And I used to tell them the fact that they're not here this moment with you means that there are sicker people right now that they're dealing with. And, some people are just that way, but,
yeah.
But helplessness was a big pet peeve for me. It's like, yeah, if you can't even reach across to your little tray table and pick something up for yourself, then yeah. And it happens all the time.
And there's something about the hospital environment too, I think, that gets people like where they're just uncomfortable in general, and that includes visitors. And you'll have somebody that cares for the family member at home, but when they're in the hospital, it's like they're afraid to touch them. Like, oh, honey, you can come over here. He's okay. He can talk to you. And it's a lot of different family dynamics stuff too that we deal with.
Yeah, very true. All righty.
All
okay,
right,
what
guys.
chapters are we reading next week?
What do y'all think?
Well, let's take a look.
Do we want to do 4 through 7, 4, 5, or still 4 through 6? I mean, let's see how many pages that is.
It's less than 20 pages to do 3 chapters.
What?
Yeah. So, no,
we may have to go
a little more than 20. So we've got page 62 is the beginning of chapter 4. Okay. And then 83 is the end of chapter 7. So it's 21 pages to do 3 chapters.
Okay. We could go through, so we could do
4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, 6. I mean, we could do 7.
Your pages are different than mine.
Of course, I'm looking on the Kindle too. It's probably
I am
the same
too.
amount.
Oh no, I'm looking at the actual book.
Mine's like 103 to 136.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the actual book, it's 21 pages, so it's not a lot. But
so yeah, it's not a lot at all. Do we want to do 4 chapters instead? This book has a lot of chapters, and they seem to be pretty small.
We can do 4. We can do 4, 5, 6, and 7 if you want to.
Yeah, let's do that.
This, I think, is. I loved Dr. Fung's book, but this one doesn't seem to require as much brain power, or I don't know, because I've had to go
it's
back
more common sense,
it's not as sciencey.
It's more. He breaks it down in such a way, and
for every man, so to speak.
Dr. Fung says things in such a scientific way. Sometimes it makes my brain hurt.
Yeah, and you had to go back and reread, like, okay, what was that again? And I love reading things like that, but it's just when you're preparing for something like a book club, you do have to read a smaller selection of that than you would this. So I'm good with 4 chapters here, if you are.
Yeah, quantity wise, I think it's fine, and because it's a lot of common sense that he talks about.
Yeah.
Well,
all right, let's do that then.
All right, 4 through 7.
We'll see how that goes.
7 it is.
All right.
All right. Well, I've got another live at 8:00. Well, it's actually not a live. It's a Zoom for my YouTube content creation stuff. So
Oh, cool.
I'm excited for that. That's
Nice.
I'm putting out a whole lot of probably weird videos, but
Well, did you see I commented on your video from last night?
I think I've seen a couple comments from you. What was it?
Oh, it was just an encouraging comment.
Oh,
Like, have fun with
yeah,
it.
I saw that one. Yeah.
So I saw that you were doing
Yes.
your really doing that course, and that's cool.
Yeah, I've done another course too that was a really big one. And I'm actually learning more from this other creator that just kind of teaches these classes, and she's doing a mindset and content creation class, and she's kind of hardcore. Like, we came to class last night, nobody had done their homework, and she stopped the class and made us do it right then, and we're like all just like frantically posting videos. I was pulling out old videos that I'd already posted and reposted. So yeah, because I have a lot of different content on TikTok and Facebook and stuff. I used to just do kind of funny stuff and didn't really talk about diet or anything, but now I want to make it more of a, like, I'm a whole person, so my channel is going to be about me, and whatever I like, and I'm not trying to. It's not like I'm trying to get rich off this or anything. I don't make any money off of it all, and I spend lots of time on it. But it's something that, I would like to have a goal of eventually making money and paying off my mortgage and my credit cards and all that stuff, using content creation.
That would be great.
But I don't think that I'm going to get there with the carnivore space because, we're a very select group of people. But if I can educate people along the way, that'll be good. That's where my heart is, but I love YouTube. I just love it. I love content creation. It's such like a creative outlet.
I like it too. And I want to get the word out about carnivore to people, but I'm trying to find a way to make myself relatable to most people, because I believe the carnivore diet can help anybody. And I don't have this extreme before and after that I can just share. There's not some dramatic thing that's just going to make somebody say, oh, wow. So I do post some things about like what I'm eating, or just because people seem to like what I'm eating.
Yeah.
Types of things.
And walking and stuff too.
Yeah. And
sunrise and.
Yeah. And I'm trying to spread joy, because I really think that we can. My dream is to live in the country, but I don't live in the country. And so, but what I can do is I can get out and walk every morning, and I can see the sun come up, and I can, share that with others and say, good morning. I hope you have a great day,
Yes,
because I do. Yes. And then when I say I love you all, I mean it. I mean, I love you all, and I hope you have a great day. And I just want everybody to have a great day, and so it's just trying to spread a little bit of positivity.
And that helps people. You don't know who you're helping with, puppy.
Oh,
my husband just came in carrying the dog. So I said, oh, give him to me.
Aww.
But you never know, Carrie, who you're helping. Like, there's somebody out there that you don't even know that's watching your videos, because I've been that person. And I've watched stuff, and I'm sure the person that made the video is probably thinking like, oh, I'm just like, this is just nothing. This is just me, doing this or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it meant something, and I don't know why. It just did, It's like, oh, there's my friend Carrie, It's like that kind of moment of contact, human contact in our lives. Sometimes there's a lot of people out there who are very lonely and don't get that. And, as carnivores, it's not necessarily my mission to spread carnivore to everybody as much as it's my mission to get better myself, so that I have it in me to spread, whatever, to do this and that, and, and to be as creative as I possibly can, and, just kind of make the most of my life in general,
Yeah, exactly. And to express my creativity and to share joy. And like I said, I mean, I know I sound kind of woo woo, but as I've gotten older,
No, not at all.
it's just, I just want to there's so much ugly in the world, and I just don't want to participate in that.
I
And
don't
so
either.
what I want to do is I just want to send out love and good vibes to people and try to help them and support them, even if I can't fix their problem or, don't know what to tell them to do to fix it, to at least support them.
It's kind of like one of the YouTubers that I follow. She talks about carnivore. She has several videos about carnivore, but like that's not her whole personality,
Right.
I love her. I love watching her makeup stuff. I love hearing her talk. She could talk about taking the garbage out and I'd probably watch it because I think she's my friend in my mind now.
Some people are really great storytellers.
Yeah.
And, can take any topic or anything and turn it into a really good story. And that's a real skill. Because I mean, seriously, like there are people who you can just have them do everyday things on their channel and you just really enjoy watching them.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I got into celebrity gossip. I don't care about celebrities, but one of my people that I was watching on YouTube, that's like one of his things is celebrity gossip. So I would just keep listening to the celebrity gossip until he got to the other stuff I like to hear about. And I'm just like, after a while, I started liking it. What is wrong with you? But he could make anything interesting,
Yeah.
Go to the grocery store and I'd like it.
Yeah. Well, I've just been I've been doing my plank challenge on my channel this month and cutting along.
I love it.
I'm like seriously starting to get, kind of impressed with how long.
I was very impressed by your last video that I watched.
Holy
your
cow.
form is spot on. It's amazing.
I just did an Instagram post last night showing a screenshot of my first plank versus one I did, and I didn't post yesterday's. I'm gonna be posting yesterday's and today's together, but yesterday's was even longer than the day before, the one that I did post. But yeah, it's just like I even just seeing those pictures side by side, I was like, man, my form was horrible at the beginning, and I actually maybe look a little thinner than I did 20 days ago. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I thought your form was excellent. I was like, impressed.
I thought so too.
Well, my physical therapist, when I told him I was doing the plank challenge, he had me do a plank and he made sure that I was doing it properly with the right form. So I can thank him for it.
And Lynn, when I was watching your video, like all my friends inspire me in different ways, all my internet friends and my real life friends. Jack, too loud. Sorry. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not, but he's getting a little loud down there. But anyway, so just, watching your videos, it's like, it makes me realize how important just documenting the little things, because if you were a person who just withheld that because you were like, well, that's not very interesting to somebody, or that's not gonna draw a lot of attention, or get me a viral video. Like, who wants a viral video to begin with? That sounds like a nightmare to me. But anyway, I just want a good small community,
Right.
But by watching your stuff and other people's stuff, it's like, I'm interested in this, it doesn't
honestly,
matter that it's just a small part of your day. Like,
and it's the comments,
I think you
honestly,
can really
that encourage me, because I do have, a segment of my audience that is following along all of my plank videos and really encouraging me. And that has meant so much. I've really learned from them, because there was a time where I, what was it, maybe 10 days into it or so, I kind of strained my back because I did a little too much. I advanced too fast, and I got some great feedback and comments from people. And that it doesn't need to be a ton of people. It just needs to be a handful of people that provide that feedback that means so much. But I mean, I just a few days ago finally, there's 2 levels of monetization on these YouTube channels, and I had already hit the first level, and I hit the second level the other day. So I got my 4,000 hours. And so now like my channel can be fully monetized, which I don't even know what to do with that, to be honest. Like,
Yeah. Just keep going, just
I'm
don't
like,
even worry about it.
I'm not really, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, well, I've earned like a whole $7 on now. It's like, that's not going to pay the bills.
But that's
So
a great goal though that you've achieved,
my viewers are the
That
ones
is a great, that's
they're the
awesome.
ones watching,
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is you're consistent. The girl that I follow, she always says consistency is key. Consistency wins in all things.
Yeah.
If you post, she encourages people to post every day, and I'm like, okay, whoa, I can't do that for what. Like in my mind, I can't do that, but
it's hard.
I mean, but you can post a short video every day, or you can post every other day, or a shorter long video. It doesn't have to be a 10-minute to an hour video like I tend to do. I tend to make hour-long videos all the time.
Yeah. So good. Well, I think it's a very good goal to have, and
and it's fun. I mean, I'm going into my well, in 2 years I'll be 50. So, I just feel like my kids are going to be leaving the nest eventually, and I want to prepare for that. And I don't want to get to that point and just not have any hobbies and not have anything for myself. I'm making myself my own little community online,
right.
And it's and hopefully it will be there for me when I need it.
Yeah.
It will.
That's my
just
goal.
be yourself.
And that's another thing is it's hard. You don't realize how hard it is to be yourself, especially when you've been raised to, act certain ways to not to make sure the neighbors don't think anything. Or who knows. I mean, we've, especially as women, I feel like our whole life we're just taught to kind of put on this big
happy face or just whatever, like everything is perfect. And I think that
people don't like that. Like I used to think people liked when you were perfect, if you looked perfect, if you talked perfect, but nobody's perfect, so obviously you couldn't achieve that anyway. But people don't like that, and I don't like that. When I watch people, I like real, I want to see vulnerability. So I'm trying to be more vulnerable, and it's hard.
And I don't know about you guys, because you're kind of more, you're not in the deep South, but you're kind of more considered Southern. Yes. And I know that culturally there's a little bit of difference as far as, the way you present yourself in the South. And like, I was raised on the West Coast, where it's like, you let it all hang out. You just kind of, however you are, it's how you are. And it's just it's a little bit different, but it can get a little excessive on the West Coast. Like,
well, I know what you mean by the South. I mean, I'm in Kentucky, but we consider ourselves the South,
Right.
And
but like my family's in Louisiana, they're like South.
We are raised as young girls to well, first of all, to compete with each other, not to be friends as much with each other as to consider each other competition. So we have friends and stuff, but there's just a lot of like, especially small town South stuff. It's, I don't know, where I'm from anyway, it was that way. And I remember going up to Chicago. When I was in college, just out of college, I had met a guy from Chicago, and I went up there and they introduced me to all their friends and everything. And it was just such a culture shock for me. These girls, like, they were beautiful girls, but they weren't like all done up or anything. And they were more interested in their studies than they were in boys. And like, that's just not how we were. It just wasn't like that where I was from. It was very, I don't know. It was just kind of, there was a bit of a shallowness to it,
That's kind of funny, because when I went back to school when I was, 36, I guess, roughly. Anyway, I went back to school, and there were these girls, and they were friends who were in school, and they were very pretty and everything, and they were Hooters girls. And I mean, they could make a lot of money at Hooters, but they didn't have, so it wasn't like they were pole dancing or something. But I mean, they did work at Hooters and made a lot of money. And they were the sweetest girls. And I used to hang out with them and sit and talk to. And I mean, I was like 10 years older or more than they were, And it was just something to see that it's possible that there are, very beautiful people who are genuine. Because it was kind of cliquey in the high school. Well, the junior high I went to, the high school was different, but people were just really cliquey and backstabby and just.
Yeah, that's how they were where I'm from.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, me
But
too.
And
now,
and it didn't matter who you were. You
better.
couldn't be,
Yeah.
you weren't good enough. It didn't matter who you were.
Yeah.
Like, even if you were in the popular people, you weren't the top popular person, I was a cheerleader, but I still didn't feel, I
could
just
see
didn't really
you.
feel like I fit in
I
anywhere.
could see you as a cheerleader.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was weird.
I was
though.
the
Like, I never
artsy
felt like I fit
thespian.
in. Were you?
Yeah.
I was
I
also in drama and band though. So I was like, I just was with every group,
I was in student government, and I was like the bookworm and like science and math awards. I was the yearbook editor, the newspaper editor, which really involved in high school. I was the academic one, but not unpopular. It's like I was kind of like right in the middle of like, everybody liked me and I liked everybody.
That's kind of how I was.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's how
I was like mediocre
too.
popular, like,
yeah.
But I was more probably well known, but not.
Yeah.
I mean, not like the person,
like, everybody knew that I was one of the like smart ones. I was pretty much top of my class. But so it's like when it came time to like chemistry class, like the big man on campus wanted me as his lab partner. And I knew it. I knew it wasn't because he wanted to take me on a date,
Oh, that's great. I was like not paying attention in most classes, to be honest with you. But now as an adult, I have such a love of learning that I just think, man, I wish if I wasn't so boy crazy back then. I mean, I was really quite boy crazy, and just pretty much my objective in any class would be like, which guy could I flirt with in here? It's so awful and shallow and weird. I had a pretty
steady boyfriend throughout most of high school, so it's like I wasn't even worried about that. But it was all academic stuff. So, but
well, I got involved in academic stuff once I got in college, and I started making straight A's, and I was just like shocked by that.
I'm smart.
Oh, well, guys, I guess we're gonna wrap it up. I'm trying to make it through everybody's comments here.
West Coast free for all. It's very little supervision. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, for most of us that are Gen X, we had very little supervision. And somehow I was still a pretty good girl.
Yeah, I never got in trouble. I was a really good kid. I was way too cool for cheerleading.
Oh, I still partied on the weekends. I was one of the bad I was one of the bad cheerleaders. Not the bad ones, but like just the ones that kind of like I mostly didn't hang out with the cheerleaders. I had my little group of friends that, we were partying on the weekends.
How funny.
All right. Well, y'all ready to head out?
Yep, this has been a lot of fun as usual.
Yeah. Yeah, we ended up with quite a gab session. I don't know if you saw me kind of distracted a little bit. Like my husband came in here and sat down, and he's like on his phone. So I ended up throwing a remote at him.
Well, Zach is down there being so loud on his VR, and then he's coughing because poor little thing's sick on top of that.
Aww.
So I'm just like, be quiet. I keep muting and saying, stop talking.
I know. I was sitting here snapping at my husband like, shh, and he kept doing it. So I finally just grabbed my remote for my light and threw it at him. He's like, what?
Oh, look. Carrie,
Yes.
you look
Thank
extra
you.
pretty today. I agree. You do look
Yes.
extra pretty today.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you do.
All right.
Varsity gal.
And Susie made it today.
Yeah.
Glad to have you, Susie.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you for coming. And let's see. Yeah, if you miss it, just watch the replay. And we're just going to say for the record, so we can say that we announced our channels. I'm Nurse Kim at Nurse Kimberly Lane on YouTube. Carrie is Carrie at My Meatomorphosis with an O in the middle. And she has some beautiful sunrises. And Lynn is Lynn at Midlife Carnivore on YouTube, and she is planking with the best of them. So go check her out.
She's going.
She's about got me ready to like figure out a place in my house that I could actually set up a camera and do that.
I actually
plank, but I can't. I don't know. I've got to figure out how to film myself. I mean, the cats no help.
I have trouble even filming myself, like, you know, like this. I'm like, how
Exactly.
I just want to get.
I have a little tripod and I put it on the ground and it's like that far off the ground, you know, and I just kind of adjust the angle of it, you know, and
yeah,
I hate filming my whole body, but I can have to do the plank, right?
Well, your video quality looks great too.
Oh,
So,
good lighting.
And I just have one thing I would like to say to everybody.
What?
Forget your pudding, eat your meat.
I love it. I love it, Carrie. I was actually thinking of that song the other day.
That's right.
Yeah, I was listening to it and I was like, see, they even knew if you don't eat your meat, how can you have any pudding?
That's right.
That's right.
So I'm just saying, forget your pudding.
Yeah, forget that pudding. Let's get that pudding out of here. All right. We will head on out then, guys. It's been real. See y'all later.
Bye,
everybody. Thank you for watching.
Yes, thanks for hanging in there with us.
Bye-bye.